When my daughter-in-law told me to leave, I smiled instead of crying. I don't know why I smiled. Maybe because crying would have given her what she wanted. Maybe because somewhere deep inside, I had been expecting those words for a very long time. Or maybe it was simply this. After 70 years of living, I have learned that tears change nothing. The front door closed behind me that afternoon. I stood on the porch of the house my husband and I had built with our own hands, the house where my son took his first steps, where he scraped his knees on the driveway, where he learned to ride a bicycle against the fence line that I could still see from where I stood. The spring air was warm, but my hands were cold. I held my handbag with both hands because I didn't know what else to do with them. I wasn't angry. That surprised me most of all. I was 68 years old, and my son had just watched his wife ask me to leave his home. He had stood in the hallway, halfway between the kitchen and the living room, his eyes on the floor. He didn't say a word. He didn't look at me. He just stood there, frozen like a photograph, while his wife held the door open and waited for me to walk through it. I walked. The street was quiet. The neighbors were at work. The children were in school. I was alone on a Tuesday afternoon with nowhere to go and no one to call. I sat on the bench at the bus stop even though I didn't need a bus. I just needed to sit somewhere. I needed the world to stop spinning for just a moment so I could understand what had just happened to me. And that was only the beginning. 3 months later, I learned about the wedding. My only son was getting married, and I was not invited. I heard it from my hairdresser, of all people. She saw the announcement in the local paper and showed it to me, her face full of confusion, not understanding why my name wasn't listed anywhere in the wedding party details. I looked at the newspaper clipping. I looked at my son's name next to hers. I looked at the date and the time and the church where my own mother had been buried 20 years before. And I smiled again. Because what else can you do when your heart breaks and the world keeps turning like nothing happened? This is my story. It is not a story of anger or revenge. It is a story of love, of loss, and of the strange quiet that comes when you realize that the child you raised is no longer yours to hold. Let me tell you about my son. His name is Michael. When he was born, the doctor placed him in my arms, and I remember thinking that I had never seen anything so small and so perfect. He had 10 tiny fingers and 10 tiny toes, and a cry that could wake the dead. My husband, Thomas, stood beside the hospital bed and cried. He was not a man who cried easily. But that day, he wept like a child, and I loved him even more for it. We lived in a small house on Maple Street. It was not a fancy house. The kitchen was narrow, and the bathroom tiles were cracked, and the roof leaked every spring when the heavy rains came. But it was ours. We bought it with money we saved for 10 years, working extra shifts, skipping vacations, eating leftovers more often than we cared to remember. Michael grew up in that house. He learned to crawl on the living room floor, pulling himself along the carpet until he reached the coffee table and pulled himself up on unsteady legs. I can still see him standing there, gripping the edge of the table with both hands, looking at me with those big brown eyes, waiting for me to clap and cheer. I always clapped. I always cheered. Every small step, every new word, every tiny victory, I celebrated them all like they were the greatest achievements in human history. Thomas worked at the factory on the other side of town. He left before sunrise and came home after dark, his hands rough and calloused, his face tired but always smiling when he saw Michael running toward the door. He would lift Michael into the air, spinning him around until they both collapsed onto the couch, laughing so hard that I could hear them from the kitchen. We were not rich, but we were happy. We had each other, and that was enough. When Michael was 7 years old, he came home from school with a drawing he had made. It was a picture of our family, Thomas and me holding hands, Michael standing between us, a yellow sun in the corner of the page with a smiley face. He had written our names at the bottom in crooked letters. "Mommy," he said, holding the drawing up for me to see. "This is us. We're a family forever, right?" I knelt down and looked into his eyes. "Forever and ever," I told him. "Nothing will ever change that." I believed those words with all my heart. I believed that the love between a mother and a son was unbreakable, that no force in the world could tear us apart. I was wrong, of course.
But I didn't know that then.
I didn't know that forever is a word we use because we cannot see what is coming. Michael grew older. He became a teenager, moody and distant, spending more time in his room than with us. Thomas would knock on his door, asking if he wanted to play catch or go fishing. Most of the time, Michael said no. He was too busy with his friends, with his music, with whatever world existed inside that small room that I worried. Every mother worries. But Thomas told me to give him space, to let him grow, to trust that the boy we raised would find his way back to us. He's a good kid, Thomas would say. He just needs to figure out who he is. I wanted to believe that. I wanted to believe that the distance between us was temporary, that one day he would come back to me, that we would sit at the kitchen table and talk like we used to when he was small, and the world was simple. But Thomas got sick before that could happen. It was a Tuesday in October. I remember because the leaves were falling, and the yard was covered in gold and red. Thomas came home early from work, which he never did. His face was pale, and he was holding his chest. "I think I need to see a doctor," he said. Those were the words that changed everything. The doctors found a tumor. They did what they could. Surgery, radiation, chemotherapy. Thomas fought with everything he had. He never complained, never asked why this was happening to him. He just kept fighting, day after day, week after week, month after month. Michael was 18 by then. He had just started community college, working part-time at a grocery store to save money for a better school. When I told him about his father, he didn't say much. He just nodded and went to his room. Later that night, I heard him crying through the wall, and I wanted to go to him, to hold him, to tell him that everything would be okay. But I didn't. I stayed in my room, crying into my pillow, because I didn't have the strength to comfort anyone. Thomas lasted 8 months after the diagnosis. 8 months of hope and fear, of good days and bad days, of holding hands and pretending we weren't counting down the time we had left. The night he died, he asked me to bring Michael to his bedside. "Take care of him," Thomas whispered, his voice barely audible. "Take care of our boy." "I will," I promised. "I will take care of him forever." Thomas smiled, a small tired smile, and closed his eyes. He was gone before the sun came up. Michael stood beside me at the funeral. He was so tall, taller than his father had been. He wore a black suit that was slightly too big in the shoulders. He didn't cry. He stood there, staring at the coffin, his face completely empty. After the service, people came to the house. They brought food and offered condolences and said all the things people say at times like this. Michael stayed in his room. He didn't come out until everyone was gone. "Mom," he said, standing in the kitchen doorway. "I'm going to transfer to a university in the city. I need to get out of here." I wanted to tell him no. I wanted to tell him that I needed him here, that I couldn't lose both of them, that the house was too empty without his father's voice. But I looked at his face, at the pain he was trying so hard to hide, and I knew I couldn't keep him. "Okay," I said. "If that's what you need." He left 3 weeks later. After Michael left, the house felt different. Not empty, exactly. More like waiting. Like the walls themselves were holding their breath, listening for footsteps that never came. I would walk from room to room, dusting furniture that no one touched, cooking meals that no one ate. I kept Michael's bedroom exactly as he left it. The bed made, the desk tidy, a photograph of his father on the nightstand. He called every Sunday at first, regular as church bells. I would sit by the phone in the kitchen, waiting for it to ring, and when it did, my whole world would light up. Mom. His voice, still young but changing, growing deeper.
Vabbè.
"How are you? How's school? Are you eating enough?
Do you need anything? Mom, I've fine.
Everything's fine." We would talk for 10, maybe 15 minutes. He would tell me about his classes, about the new friends he was making, about the city and all its noise and excitement. I would listen and nod and pretend I could see him through the phone. When we said goodbye, I would hold the receiver for a long moment before hanging up, as if that could keep him close just a little longer. Over time, the calls grew shorter. Sunday became every other Sunday. 15 minutes became 10. The stories became shorter too. Less detail. More silence. I told myself it was normal.
He was busy.
He was young.
He had his own life now.
That's what children do. They grow up and move away and build their own worlds, and mothers are supposed to understand, supposed to let go with grace and love. I tried. God knows I tried. He came home for Christmas that first year. I spent weeks preparing. I cleaned the house from top to bottom. I bought a tree and decorated it with all the ornaments we had collected over the years, the ones Michael made in school, the ones his father bought on our vacation to the mountains. I cooked his favorite foods, the lasagna he loved as a child, the chocolate cake I made for every birthday. He arrived on the 23rd. I heard the car pull into the driveway and ran to the door like a teenager. There he was, taller than I remembered, wearing a heavy coat and carrying a duffel bag. He looked tired, older, different. "Michael," I said, and my voice cracked. "Hey, Mom." He hugged me, but it was quick. A pat on the back, a squeeze of the shoulders, then he pulled away and looked past me into the house.
"Looks the same," he said.
"It is the same. I kept it the same for you." He nodded and walked inside. He dropped his bag in the hallway and stood in the living room, looking at the tree. I watched him, searching for the boy I raised, finding only traces of him in the shape of his jaw, the way he stood with his hands in his pockets. "How's school?" I asked.
"Good."
"Really good. Are you meeting people? Making friends?"
"Yeah."
"Lots of people." He didn't elaborate. He didn't tell me stories. He just stood there, quiet and distant, like a guest in his own home. That Christmas was hard. Not because anything bad happened. Nothing happened at all. We sat in the living room and watched television. We ate meals in silence. We exchanged gifts on Christmas morning. I gave him a sweater, he gave me a scarf. We both said thank you and moved on. On the 26th, he said he had to go back. Friends were having a party. He didn't want to miss it. "But it's still Christmas," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Can't you stay a few more days?" "I really can't, Mom.
I'm sorry."
He hugged me at the door, the same quick hug as before, and then he was gone.
I
Stood on the porch and watched his car disappear down the street, and I felt something I couldn't name.
Not sadness, exactly.
Something colder. Something that settled in my chest and stayed there.
The years passed like that.
Visits grew rarer. Phone calls became texts. I learned not to expect too much, not to hope too hard. I filled my days with small things, gardening, reading, volunteering at the church. I made friends with other women my age, women whose children had also grown and moved away. We would meet for coffee and talk about our lives, and I would listen to their stories and tell a few of my own, and for a while, I would feel almost normal. Then Michael called one Sunday and told me he was getting married. I was sitting in the kitchen, drinking tea, when the phone rang. I answered, expecting the usual short conversation. Instead, his voice was different. Excited. Nervous. "Mom, I have something to tell you." "What is it, baby?" "I met someone. Her name is Vanessa, and we're getting married." For a moment, I couldn't speak. My son, getting married. The boy who learned to walk in this living room, who rode his bicycle on this street, who left home with a duffel bag and a broken heart. He was going to be a husband. That's wonderful. I finally managed. That's absolutely wonderful. "Tell me about her. Tell me everything." He told me. She was smart and beautiful. She worked at a marketing firm. She had a laugh that made everyone around her smile. They met at a coffee shop of all places. He spilled his drink, she helped clean it up, and they talked for hours. "She sounds perfect," I said. "When do I get to meet her?"
"Soon," he said.
"I'll bring her to visit. I promise." I waited for that visit. I cleaned the house again, more carefully this time. I bought fresh flowers and put them in every room. I planned meals and practiced conversations in my head, imagining what I would say to this woman who had captured my son's heart. They came in the spring, I heard the car and went to the door, my heart beating faster than it had in years. Michael stepped out first, then turned to help her. She was beautiful, just as he said. Dark hair, bright eyes, a smile that was polite but not warm. "Mom, this is Vanessa." I held out my hand. "It's so nice to finally meet you." She shook my hand briefly. "Nice to meet you too." The visit was awkward from the start. Vanessa looked around the house with an expression I couldn't read. She sat on the couch, but didn't relax. She answered my questions with short replies and asked none of her own. Michael sat beside her, holding her hand, looking at her more than he looked at me. Dinner was quiet. I had made lasagna, his favorite, but he barely ate. Vanessa pushed food around her plate and said it was delicious, even though she hadn't taken more than 2 bites. After dinner, they sat in the living room while I washed dishes. I could hear them whispering, but not what they were saying. When I joined them, the whispering stopped. "We should probably head back soon," Michael said. "Long drive." "Already? You just got here." "We have plans tomorrow. Work stuff." I walked them to the door. Michael hugged me, a real hug this time, and I held on for as long as he would let me. "She's lovely," I whispered. "I'm happy for you." "Thanks, Mom." They drove away. I stood on the porch, watching until the car disappeared, and I felt that cold thing in my chest again. Only this time it was bigger. That was the last time Michael came to visit. The wedding was small. Michael told me on the phone. Just close friends and family. They were keeping it simple. "I understand," I said. "When is it?" "Next month. The 15th. "Next month? That's soon. We don't want to wait. We're ready." I waited for the invitation. I checked the mail every day, looking for the envelope with my name on it. I told myself it would come. Of course it would come. I was his mother. How could he get married without his mother? The invitation never came. Instead, I got a phone call from Michael 2 weeks before the wedding. His voice was strange, careful, like he was reading from a script. "Mom, I need to talk to you about something." "Of course, baby. What is it?" "Vanessa and I have been talking about the wedding. And we've decided that it might be better if you don't come." The world stopped. I held the phone, not understanding the words I had just heard. "What do you mean?" "It's just, she's very close to her family. Her mother is helping with all the planning. And we think it might be complicated if you're there." "Complicated? I'm your mother." "I know, Mom. I know. But Vanessa feels that her mother should be the only mother figure at the wedding. She doesn't want any drama." "Drama? What drama? I've never done anything but love you." "I know. It's not you. It's just the way things are." I couldn't speak. The words wouldn't come. I sat at the kitchen table, the same table where Michael had done his homework, where we had eaten thousands of meals, where his father had sat and laughed and loved us both.
Mom?
"Are you still there?" "I'm here."
I'm sorry.
"I really am. But this is what Vanessa wants. And I have to respect that." "What do you want, Michael?" Silence. Long and heavy. "I want everyone to be happy," he finally said. "I want peace. And if I'm not there, there will be peace?"
Yes.
"I think so." I closed my eyes. I thought of his father, of the promise I made on his deathbed. "Take care of our boy." "Okay," I said. "If that's what you need." "Thank you, Mom. Thank you for understanding I didn't understand. I didn't understand at all. But I said okay, because that's what mothers do. We say okay even when our hearts are breaking. We step aside even when every part of us wants to fight." The wedding happened on the 15th. I stayed home. I didn't tell anyone. I sat in the living room and looked at photographs. Michael as a baby, Michael on his first day of school, Michael with his father at the lake. I held each photograph and remembered the moments they captured, and I tried to understand how the boy in those pictures had become a man who didn't want his mother at his wedding. That night, I dreamed of Thomas. He was standing in the kitchen, just like he used to, leaning against the counter with a cup of coffee in his hand. "Where's Michael?" he asked. "I don't know," I said. "I think I lost him." Thomas shook his head. "You didn't lose him. He's just finding his own way." I woke up crying. Months passed. Michael called less and less. When he did call, the conversations were short and empty.
How are you? Fine.
"How's work?" "Good." "How's Vanessa?" "She's good. We should visit soon."
Sure.
"I love you." "Love you too."
Click.
I filled my days with routines. Morning coffee, afternoon walks, evening television. I learned to live with the silence, with the emptiness, with the cold thing in my chest that never went away. Then one Tuesday afternoon my phone rang. Michael's name appeared on the screen, and for a moment, I felt hope. Maybe he was coming to visit. Maybe he missed me. Maybe things would go back to the way they were.
Mom.
I need to ask you something. His voice was different. Serious.
Worried.
What is it? Vanessa and I have been talking. About the future. About starting a family. My heart lifted. A grandchild. I was going to be a grandmother. That's wonderful news. There's something else. We've been looking at houses. There's one we really like. It's perfect for us. For a family. That sounds wonderful. Where is it? It's in the city. Near her parents. I waited. There was more coming. I could feel it. The thing is, Mom, we need help with the down payment. Vanessa's parents are contributing, but we're still short. And I was wondering if you might be able to help. How much? 50,000. I had the money. Thomas's life insurance. Savings we had put aside over 40 years of marriage. Money we had planned to leave to Michael someday, anyway. I'll have to check my accounts, I said. But yes, I think I can help. Really?
Thank you, Mom.
Thank you so much. When do you need it? As soon as possible. The house won't wait. I transferred the money the next day.
$52,000.
Every penny I had saved. I told myself it was for Michael, for my future grandchild, for the family I still hope to be part of. A week later, Michael called again. Mom, we got the house. Thank you. We couldn't have done it without you. I'm so happy for you both. When can I see it?
Soon.
We're still settling in. It's chaos here. I understand. Just let me know when you're ready. Months passed. The invitation never came. I asked about the house, and Michael always had an excuse. Too busy. Too much to do.
Soon.
Then one day, he called and asked me to come. Vanessa thinks it's time you saw the place, he said. She's been talking about having you over for dinner. My heart soared. I would love that. Next Tuesday? Around 5. I'll be there. I spent 3 days preparing. I bought a new dress. Simple, but nice. I had my hair done at the salon. I bought a small gift for the house, a ceramic bird that caught my eye in a shop window. Nothing fancy. Just something to show I was thinking of them. Tuesday came. I drove to the city, following the directions Michael had sent. The house was in a nice neighborhood. Big trees lining the streets, well-kept lawns, children's toys in some of the driveways. I pulled up in front of a beautiful 2-story house with a white porch and flower boxes in the windows. This was my son's home. $50,000 of my money had helped buy this house. And now I was finally going to see it. I rang the doorbell. Michael opened the door, and for a moment, he looked like a stranger. Older, more tired. Lines around his eyes I hadn't noticed before.
Mom. Come in.
I stepped inside. The house was beautiful. Hardwood floors, high ceilings, a staircase curving up to the second floor. Vanessa stood in the living room, holding a baby in her arms. A baby. My grandchild. You have a baby, I said, my voice barely a whisper. Vanessa's face tightened. We were going to tell you. We just wanted to wait until things settled down. I looked at Michael. He wouldn't meet my eyes. How old? 3 months, Vanessa said. Her name is Lily. 3 months. My grandchild was 3 months old, and I was just now learning she existed. I wanted to cry. I wanted to scream. I wanted to ask how they could keep this from me, how they could rob me of those first months, those precious moments I would never get back. But I didn't. I smiled. The same smile I had worn so many times before. She's beautiful, I said. She looks like you, Michael. Dinner was unbearable. Vanessa put Lily in a bassinet in the corner of the dining room. I couldn't stop looking at her, at this tiny person I was only just meeting. I wanted to hold her, to feel her weight in my arms, to whisper all the things grandmothers whisper to their grandchildren. But Vanessa kept her distance. When I asked if I could hold the baby, she said Lily was sleeping and shouldn't be disturbed. When I offered to help with dinner, she said she had everything under control. When I tried to ask questions about their lives, about the house, about anything, she answered with one-word replies and looked at Michael with an expression I couldn't read. After dinner, we sat in the living room. Michael and Vanessa on one couch, me on the other. The baby slept in the corner. The silence was thick and uncomfortable. Finally, Vanessa spoke. We need to talk about something. I looked at her. Of course. It's about the future. About Michael's mother. I'm Michael's mother.
Yes.
And I think we need to establish some boundaries. I didn't understand. Boundaries. Michael and I are building a life together. A family. And I think it's important that we do it on our own. Without interference. I've never interfered. I've only ever tried to help. The money for the house was helpful.
We appreciate that.
But it also comes with expectations. I can feel it. You expect to be part of everything now. To visit whenever you want. To have a relationship with Lily. I'm her grandmother. Of course, I want a relationship with her. That's the problem. You see yourself as grandmother. But I see myself as mother. And I need you to understand that Lily is my daughter. Not yours. You had your chance to raise children. Now it's my turn. I looked at Michael. He was staring at the floor, just like he had in the hallway that day.
Silent.
Frozen. I'm not trying to take over, I said, keeping my voice calm. I just want to be part of their lives. Part of your lives. That's all I've ever wanted. Vanessa stood up. I think you should go now.
What?
I think you should go. This conversation isn't going anywhere. I looked at Michael again. He didn't move.
He didn't speak.
He just sat there, staring at the floor, while his wife told his mother to leave. I stood up slowly. I picked up my handbag. I walked to the front door, and Vanessa opened it for me. I'm sorry if I've upset you, I said. That was never my intention. Goodbye. The door closed behind me. I stood on the porch of my son's beautiful house, the house I had helped buy, and I felt something I had never felt before. Not sadness. Not anger. Something worse. I felt invisible. I drove home that night in a daze. The highway stretched out before me, endless and dark. I thought about Thomas. I thought about the promise I made.
I thought about the
promise I made. I thought about the baby, about Lily, about all the moments I would miss. When I got home, I sat in my car in the driveway for a long time. The house was dark.
No one was waiting for me.
No one would ever wait for me again. I went inside. I made tea. I sat at the kitchen table and watched the clock tick past midnight. The next morning, Michael called. Mom, I'm sorry about last night. It's okay. It's not okay. Vanessa shouldn't have spoken to you like that. But she did. And you let her. Silence. What do you want me to do? He finally asked. I want you to be my son. I want you to remember who I am. I want you to fight for me the way I've always fought for you. I love her, Mom. I know you do. She's my wife. I have to stand by her. And where does that leave me? More silence. I don't know, he whispered. I don't know. I didn't see Michael for 3 years after that night. 3 years of birthdays alone. 3 years of Christmases with no tree, no presents, no family. 3 years of wondering if I would ever hold my granddaughter, ever hear her laugh, ever watch her grow. I sent cards. For Michael's birthday. For Vanessa's birthday. For Lily's birthday. I sent them to the house address, and I never knew if they were opened or thrown away or simply lost in the mail. I sent small gifts. A stuffed animal for Lily's first birthday, a picture book for her second, a little dress for her third. I never received a thank you. I never heard if she liked them. Did I stop calling? What was the point? Michael never answered, and when he did, the conversations were short and painful. I love you, but I can't talk now. Lily is fine. We're all fine. Goodbye. I filled my years with routine. I volunteered at the church thrift store, sorting donations and helping customers. I joined a book club, though I rarely finished the books. I took walks in the park and fed the ducks and watched young mothers push strollers and felt a pain I couldn't name. My friends told me to let go. They said I had done everything I could, that Michael was an adult, that I needed to focus on my own life. They meant well. I know they meant well. But they didn't understand. They didn't know what it was like to carry a child inside your body, to nurse him at your breast, to watch him take his first steps and speak his first words, only to become a stranger. I kept Thomas's photograph on my nightstand. Every night before sleep, I would look at his face and whisper the same words. I tried to take care of him, I don't know if he could hear me. I don't know if there's anything after this life. But talking to him helped. It made me feel less alone. Then, on a Tuesday afternoon in October, the mailman brought an envelope I didn't expect. It was addressed in handwriting I didn't recognize. The return address was Michael's, but the writing was different. Smaller, neater, feminine. I opened it with trembling hands. Inside was a photograph. A little girl, maybe 3 years old, with dark curls and bright eyes. She was sitting on a swing, laughing at whoever was pushing her. She looked just like Michael at that age. The same smile, the same sparkle. Behind the photograph was a letter. Dear Grandma, my name is Lily. I am 3 years old. Mommy said I have a grandma who loves me. She said you send me presents. I like the dress you sent. It is my favorite. I wear it all the time. I asked Mommy if I could meet you. She said maybe someday. I hope someday comes soon. Love, Lily. I read the letter 4 times. Then I cried. I cried like I hadn't cried since Thomas died, great heaving sobs that came from somewhere deep and hidden. I cried for all the years I had lost, for all the moments I had missed, for this little girl who didn't know me but wanted to meet me anyway. That night I wrote back, Dear Lily, I am your grandma. I have loved you since the day you were born, even though I couldn't hold you. I have your photograph on my refrigerator, and I look at it every morning when I make my tea. I would love to meet you too, more than anything in the world. Tell your mommy and daddy that Grandma loves them. Always. Love, Grandma. I mailed the letter the next morning. I didn't know if Vanessa would let Lily see it. I didn't know if Michael would even show it to her. But I sent it anyway because it was all I could do. 2 weeks passed. Then another letter arrived. This time, the handwriting was Michael's.
Mom,
Vanessa found Lily's letter to you. She was upset at first. She said I went behind her back. I told her I didn't know anything about it, that Lily must have written it herself. But here's the thing. When Vanessa saw how happy Lily was, getting mail from her grandma, something changed. She didn't say anything, but I saw her face. I saw her thinking. Lily asks about you now. She wants to know where you live. She wants to know if you have a dog. She wants to know if you can come to her birthday party. Her birthday is next month. She'll be 4. I don't know if Vanessa will agree. But I wanted you to know. Lily knows about you now. She loves the dress. She wears it all the time. I'm sorry it took so long. Michael. I read the letter standing in my kitchen, the morning sun streaming through the window. I read it twice, 3 times. Then I folded it carefully and placed it on the counter, next to Thomas's photograph. Did you hear that? I whispered to his picture.
she knows about me.
She loves the dress. Thomas smiled his frozen smile and said nothing. I waited. What else could I do? I waited and hoped and prayed to a God I wasn't sure I believed in anymore. The invitation came a week later. It was a proper invitation, store-bought with a cartoon unicorn on the front.
Inside.
In careful printing. You are invited to Lily's 4th birthday party. Saturday, November 12th. 2 p.m. 123 Maple Street. Please come. At the bottom, in wobbly child handwriting. Please come, Grandma. Love, Lily. I called Michael that night.
Mom.
You got the invitation. I got it. Lily wrote on it.
She insisted.
She's been talking about you for weeks. Vanessa finally gave in. Will Vanessa be okay with me there? A pause. She's trying. She knows this is important to Lily. And, to be honest, I think she regrets some things. She doesn't say it, but I can tell. I don't want to cause trouble. You won't. Just come. Meet Lily. Let her meet you. That's all we need right now. November 12th was bright and cold. I wore a new dress, blue with white flowers. I brought a gift, a doll I had found at a small shop, with soft brown hair and a smile that reminded me of Lily's photograph. I drove to the house. The same house where Vanessa had asked me to leave 3 years before. The same porch where I had stood, invisible and broken. This time, the door opened before I could ring the bell. Lily stood there, small and perfect, wearing the dress I had sent for her 3rd birthday. It was too small now, the sleeves ending above her wrists, but she wore it anyway. Grandma. She launched herself at me, wrapping her tiny arms around my legs. I knelt down and held her, this child I had waited so long to meet, and I felt something I thought I had lost forever.
Love.
Pure and simple and unconditional.
Hey, Lily, you whispered.
I'm your grandma. I know, she said, pulling back to look at me. You're the one who sends presents. I love presents. I laughed. I actually laughed, right there on the front porch of the house where my heart had broken. Vanessa appeared in the doorway. She looked different.
Softer.
Tired, maybe. But something in her eyes had changed.
Hello, she said.
Hello, Vanessa. Thank you for coming. Thank you for inviting me. We looked at each other for a long moment. So much had happened between us. So much pain. So much silence. I didn't know if we would ever be close, ever be family in the way I had hoped. But in that moment, standing on her porch with Lily between us, I thought maybe we could try. Come in, she said. The party's about to start. I followed her inside. The party was chaos, the way all children's parties are. Balloons and streamers and too much sugar. Children running through the house, shrieking with laughter. Parents standing in corners, drinking coffee and talking about school and work and the price of everything. I sat on the couch with Lily on my lap. She showed me her other presents, a coloring book, a stuffed cat, a set of blocks. She told me about her friends, her favorite shows, the playground down the street where she liked to swing. She talked, and I listened, drinking in every word like water after a long drought. Michael came and sat beside me. He put his hand on my shoulder. Thank you for coming, Mom. Thank you for inviting me.
I'm sorry.
For everything. I looked at him. My son. 40 years old now, with gray in his hair and lines around his eyes. Still the boy who learned to walk in my living room. Still the child I carried in my body and my heart.
I know you are, I said.
I forgive you. He nodded. His eyes were wet. Vanessa brought me a piece of cake. She didn't say much, but she didn't have to. The cake was enough. The gesture was enough. At the end of the party, when the other guests had gone home and the house was quiet, Lily fell asleep on my lap. I held her, feeling the weight of her small body, listening to her soft breathing. She does that, Vanessa said quietly. Falls asleep anywhere.
She always did that, Michael said.
I was the same way. Vanessa looked at him, then at me. Something passed between us. Understanding, maybe. Or the beginning of it. Do you want me to put her in her bed? I asked. If you don't mind. I carried Lily up the stairs. She stirred slightly, but didn't wake. Her room was pink and white, full of stuffed animals and picture books. I laid her in her bed and pulled the covers up to her chin. She smiled in her sleep, dreaming of something wonderful. I stood there for a long moment, looking at her. My granddaughter. The child I never thought I would hold. Downstairs, Michael and Vanessa were cleaning up. I helped where I could, washing dishes, putting away leftovers. We worked in comfortable silence, the way families do when they don't need words. When it was time to leave, Michael walked me to my car. Will you come again? He asked. Whenever you want me. Lily would like that. So would I. We hugged. A real hug, the kind we hadn't shared in years. I love you, Mom. I love you too, baby. Always have. Always will. I drove home in the dark, the highway stretching out before me. But this time, it felt different. The road wasn't endless. The night wasn't empty. When I got home, I sat at the kitchen table and looked at Thomas's photograph. She's beautiful, I told him. She looks like Michael. Like you. Like all of us. I made tea and sat in the quiet. But it wasn't the same quiet I had known for so many years. It was softer, warmer, full of hope instead of emptiness. The next morning, my phone rang. Lily's voice, high and excited. Grandma, you left your scarf here. Daddy said I can keep it until you come back. Keep it, sweetheart. It looks better on you anyway. Will you come back soon?
Soon.
I promise.
Good.
I love you, Grandma. I love you too, Lily. More than you know. I hung up the phone and looked out the kitchen window. The sun was rising over the trees, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink. A new day, a new beginning. Life doesn't always give us what we want. It doesn't always follow the paths we plan. But sometimes, if we're patient, if we're willing to wait and hope and forgive, it gives us something better.